I'd like to call to order the Village of Monee's Planning and Zoning meeting of October 18th, 2023. If we could stay.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Bettenhausen.
Here.
Brophy.
Here.
Culp.
Here.
Linner.
Here.
Lindstrom.
Here.
Trevino.
Here.
West.
Here. All right. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting of August 16th, 2023.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Brophy.
Yes?
Culp.
Yes.
Linner.
Yes.
Lindstrom.
Yes.
Trevino.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Bettenhausen.
Yes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak regarding any non-agenda items tonight? All right, now I need a motion to open the public hearing for the special use permit application for the property located at 5005 West Margaret Street.
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Culp.
Yes.
Linner.
Yes.
Lindstrom.
Yes.
Trevino.
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Bettenhausen.
Yes.
Brophy.
Yes.
All right, is Ms. McKenneth Shad here? Yes. Hi, would you like to come up and discuss your application with us?
Most certainly.
Okay.
Right here.
Yeah, and you just make sure you speak loud enough into the microphone.
Okay, are you going to ask me questions or?
Yeah, if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about what you're looking to do with the property and what you're, kind of what you've already filled out, but just explain to us a little bit, and then, yeah, if we have any questions, we'll ask them.
Okay. Well, we've been there for going on close to 2 years now. I'm doing daycare in the basement. I've been doing daycare, but not there, in a previous spot in Monee. That was what, 22 years? 22 years. And when the pandemic hit, that took most of my clientele. It didn't come back. So I sold that property, moved over here. This is where I live, and that has been my income doing daycare. Only clients that stuck with me is family. No one else is there as of yet. So this is what I'm doing. I have 9 children, and that's it. It's not an educational facility. It's just daycare, watching the children.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. I noticed in the ages requirement and the hours, it says 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then behind that, it says 6 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I'm licensed for, but I don't do that. That was when I had the other facility. They just carried on and did it for my home as well, but I don't choose to do that in my home. I need time to rest.
I have another question. Are there individuals that are considered caregivers? Do they require background checks and training?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. It's my husband, my sister, and my daughter. My sister works with me every day.
And what type of background checks are required under DCFS?
Any pedophile, abuse to children, that's the most important
The cats?
one. Mhm.
Okay. That's all of my questions.
I just want to make sure we're all clear, okay? I want to read the license that you got from the DCFS, okay? And I'm just going to start at the top, because I'm sure a lot of people that aren't familiar with what's being licensed here. So you were licensed by the state of Illinois on 12/20/2022 through year 12/20/2025. Is that correct?
3 years.
Okay. The total amount of people that you can serve, it doesn't say you are going to, but you are allowed to serve, is 16.
12 plus
12.
4.
It's, how about the 4 from the extended family, right?
Extended care,
Extended care?
meaning I can go over the limit of 4.
So
For
how many
parents.
would that be, clients and family together, maximum?
If I did that many,
If you're licensed to do that many, yes, ma'am.
well, I really can't say if
If you had all 12,
if it's 12, you said parents too.
yeah, because those are counted. You can't have, and if you have parents, mom, dad, and kids. So this would be 12 clients and 4 mom, dad, and kids?
No,
No, the
it's
license is for
children.
12 individuals in their
12
care.
individuals. Okay, yeah, that's why we're talking here.
Okay,
We want to make
good.
sure it's clear.
Yeah, I'm glad I
So-
got that understanding too, because
At
I was
any
like,
one time, you can service 12 people.
12 children.
12 children,
Only.
12 children, okay? So let's look at it again. Areas used for children, the basement only. That's correct, right?
Yes.
All right. Ages of children served, infant to 12-year-old, 5-year-old to 12-year-old, and at nights, 0 to 12 years. Hours of operation, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and 6 p.m. to 12 a.m.
That's the
Those are your
times
those are your licensed hours of operation.
yes, but I don't do
Okay, whether
those.
you do or you don't, you're licensed to do that.
Yes, I'm licensed.
Yeah, so
I'm
at some
licensed.
future time, business gets good, you could do that. Well, I got a driver's license, believe me, and I'm not allowed to go 100 miles an hour, okay? I can, but I'm not allowed to without getting a ticket. And your mailing address, that's all. Basically, what I wanted to do is make sure that the particulars of this particular license were understood and read by everybody. Right? And today, you're here to ask for a special permit to conduct a
Group daycare home.
well, it's a different title, isn't it, than just plain daycare center?
No, it's not a center at all. It's a daycare group home.
It's a group home, okay.
Meaning all ages that I can
Yeah,
provide
group
care for.
Daycare center is what the title of the license is, right? Group daycare center.
Home.
That's
No,
what it's
home.
licensed as.
Yeah, not a group home. That's
Now,
another.
group home's completely
That's
different.
Yes.
different.
Because you have 24-hour people there all the time.
No,
Group
not
home, right?
24 hours.
But let's not get lost with that. Let's just stay on the fact that this is a group daycare center that you're asking for.
Home. It's a
Home.
home and
So
it's
not
not,
center.
and it's not
Group daycare
24
home.
hours,
Okay.
sir.
And the hours are correct, that's right? The hours are correct, operation hours? 12 a.m.?
6 a.m. to 12 a.m., yes.
6 a.m. to
That's what I'm
12.
licensed for,
That's what you're licensed?
yeah, but I don't conduct those hours.
That's all, I just wanted to make sure that this was clear.
And in your previous home over there, you had no incidents? No problems with anything? None at all?
None,
Nothing with neighbors?
nothing but neighbors.
Okay.
I don't have the children running out in the streets or blocking the streets or blocking any area, obstructing anything of the neighbors in any way whatsoever. And it's not noisy.
I have,
Do you let them out during the summer? Do they go out and play, or do they go out? Is that a requirement, to get out some kind?
Yeah, we go to the park.
Go to the park? Okay, because you don't have a fence. Yeah, okay. Your yard is not fenced in.
That is correct.
So if the kid got out, a child got out, it could wander, of course not, nobody wishes that, nobody wishes that on anybody, but things happen,
Yeah, things do happen, but
things do happen.
they are not going out. They go to the park
Yeah,
when we go on
things
field
happen.
trips.
I have a question, please,
Who's talking? Oh.
right here. You have to look down. On your diagram here, I notice you have labeled the windows, the electrical box. I don't see any doors in the basement.
That was already taken care of by the fire marshal who came out. And once the fire marshal
State
comes
fire
out,
marshal.
the state fire marshal has to come out to approve that location. And there is 3 windows. One egress, which is low enough for anyone to climb out.
With a
Okay.
built-in ladder.
Stairs, and there's another window on the east side of the building.
Okay. And just like I said, there's no doors on this diagram, and I worked with children with autism, so that was the first thing I looked for were the doors.
The fire marshal said that, because I even inquired if I needed a sprinkler system or something, he was like, by all means, no. He said I had 2 exits, and that was the stairs leading up, and the egress window, which is about the size of a half of a door with the built-in staircase.
Okay. Thank you.
I got another
I think
question. Are
most of
you,
the houses around here are like that.
Pardon me?
I think most of the houses, the new residents are built in with the lower egress window. Most of them are done like that, I believe. If not, they should.
do you have running water down there? You know, toilets?
I have pictures. Can I pass around the picture, sir?
Yeah, sure.
So I can show you the daycare.
Yeah, 'cause
But there is a full kitchen
Oh,
downstairs
yeah, he's tough, too. Our fire chief is tough.
and a bathroom.
That was a question I had because I was looking at your diagram of the lower level, and there was no bathroom, no
I don't see that.
sink.
You start there.
Kitchen there, down there too.
I wish you would have included that.
You got the old one or you got the,
I got the one that I got.
We have this.
it should say it on there. No, it does not?
No,
Okay.
No.
it's okay.
I saw the fire department chief today, and we're going over, and he thought, hey, where's everything else? But he also mentioned that, well, he called the secretary, he spoke to me, and he said that he was going to call the office of the Illinois State Fire Marshal, which he did. And I don't know what happened, but they don't have any record of visiting you.
It should
Yeah, he
because
came
when
out,
it's
I have
open,
his name.
You have to have the state fire marshal come out.
Yeah, before you can get approved.
Fire extinguishers as well.
All I'm,
His name, Tom.
that's all I'm saying. He,
But anyone who
And he
wants to
sent
slide,
me,
if they like.
there, on September 15th, 2023, licensing standards for daycare centers,
Center, sir. It's
well,
not a
yes,
Two
but
different words. Center and home is totally two different
that,
words.
all right, September 15th, 2023. And what they said was, what it says, the requirements for outdoor play areas shall be met immediately. And then further down, they say, all play space shall be fenced or otherwise enclosed or protected from traffic and other hazards. And then they mentioned about the fences being 48 inches in height and other specification.
Jim, I'd like to chime
Are
in
you going to
there.
get a fence?
That's a center. We're talking about a home right now, Jim.
I know.
Yeah,
I
so
know.
that ordinance doesn't apply.
When I was reading, and I've been going over this for 3 days, the state of Illinois and the
State Fire
the
Marshal?
Department of Children and Family Services, yeah, they're different, but they even say, yeah, we overlap in a lot of our stuff, and I don't know which is which.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying you don't need a fence?
No, if they're not outside, no. They're not out. Okay,
Well-
when we go out as a group, and normally it's like maybe 3 or 4 kids at that time, and they walk to the park, we walk back.
How far is the park?
Just a couple of blocks away, the kids love to walk.
And they have chaperones.
You got like 4 kids, you got 4 chaperones,
It's a one-on-one,
basically.
right.
I have a suggestion. Do you have your fire marshal occupancy letter? Because that would play in, well, the state, this is my field, so the state says if the village is more stringent than the state, then you comply with the village. So that's what Jim was speaking of, that the fire chief should be involved in the entire process, as well as the fire marshal, because he has jurisdiction over the village. So what we're asking is, if you have that occupancy letter from the fire marshal, it's to be presented to the village, and then he says if there's any additional work he'd like to see, or any other stipulations.
That's
We can
exactly
probably
what he said.
obtain
to me.
it. We can probably obtain it because he gave everything to the licensing representative. They don't give it to me.
Well, as a
So-
provider, you should have a copy, and you can request one, because
Okay.
it's your right to have one.
Okay.
So if a village or anyone wants to see it, then you have the physical evidence.
Okay.
Yeah. So it sounds like at this point, you may need to reach out to our fire chief just to let him know what you're doing and then all of the paperwork that you've received from DCFS and also the state fire marshal.
Okay.
That would
Do
be
you
my
all need the
recommendation.
state fire marshal that came out to the house and approved it? Do you need his information?
Well, he would, the letter that they print out, they have the machines now, sometimes they print them out right on site. He would just need a copy of that letter in order for the fire chief to be able
Okay.
to interface with him to know who the person is.
Okay,
And his name should be on that occupancy.
okay.
Wasn't this done at your previous location in Monee?
4536 West Stunkel Road, Monee.
Wasn't the protocol that Pam just described done for that location in Monee?
It's
Fire
different.
marshal and all that?
It
It
was-
is a protocol, isn't it? I would call it.
Yes.
But it
They
doesn't
had-
transfer
they had the
over, I
con-
don't think. It's gotta be for each individual place.
And you just forgot that it didn't apply to this location?
No, that's not what happened, sir. That was a group home center over there. This is daycare home. Home is totally different.
Aren't they kind of the fire marshal requirements kind of? the
Fire
same?
marshal still came out
Sure.
and it was
You should have
more.
a nurse on site, you should have a lot of.
No, don't have to have a nurse for
Okay.
the
It's a
home.
larger location, and this is a much smaller location.
You know, if I had a center and I had the fire marshal show up, I'd be shaking in my boots, first of all. And then I wouldn't forget that I need to see him again if I had another place.
We were talking about the
He did
fire
come out.
chief.
He did come out.
Chief of the fire chief for the village has to be aware. The fire marshal is for the state.
The state, but the fire chief here in town will have to be aware. You know, I've got a daycare location, and I may need services and I may not. I may need an ambulance to come out, I may not. You know, these are the precautions that have to be taken.
Well, when I applied, sir, for my license here, when I paid the $75, I thought that would come in hand after this happened here, this meeting. Because when I came to pay the money for the daycare license, then I was told I would probably have to apply for a special use permit. I didn't understand why. I understand about the license, but I didn't understand why I would need the special use permit. I was dumbfounded with that.
You know,
Because you're changing the property designation from an individual home to a business.
Okay. Does that apply to all daycares, homes?
Well, each village is different. In this village,
I mean, in this village
yeah,
here?
you would have to, it falls under special use.
Okay,
Just like
special use. Do you
needs for
pay-
people with developmental disabilities or autism or anything of that nature. And that's why we're saying you may have to also speak with the fire chief to know what actually is happening in that home, not just the fire marshal. So they kind of work together. So it reads that designates a single-family property to / business.
Okay.
So that would be why they mentioned the special use.
Okay, I have another question, please. The $800, is that a requirement for every year?
No,
Or just
that's
a
your initial
one-time use?
application for special use.
Oh, praise God.
And also our attorney is here, so he can speak to it probably more proficiently than me. I just happen to do group homes, and that's my specialty.
Ma'am, we're trying to help you. Just got a couple questions.
Sure.
If a special use permit is issued, whether it be to you or anybody else, it is subject to any compliance, whether it be state, local, and federal, okay? So we would need proof that our fire chief's okay with it, our building department's okay with it, and of course, the state fire marshal. That's what we're attempting to do. That's every permit I draft, I say, subject to compliance with any and all rules and regulations.
Safety.
That's all we're trying to do. One other question. I assume the home is insured, or your business is insured as a business? Mm-hmm. Okay, that should help you, because then your insurance company realizes what you're doing, okay? So all we're looking for is that you get approval from the fire marshal or our building department. That way, you're safe and we're safe. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yes, we have homeowners insurance and a separate policy
Okay.
strictly for daycare and to cover the providers as well.
And you should. That's prudent, trust me. But all we're trying to do is get more information, so if a permit's issued, you're covered along with the village,
Okay.
okay?
The fire chief did mention that if they did inspect, as possible, based upon the number that you are getting, that you would need a sprinkler system.
I was told I didn't need a sprinkler system from the state fire marshal.
What Jim is saying is that the ordinance states at the state level that if the village is more stringent than the state, then you have to
Oh, we're
comply.
back to that
So
one.
that's
He
why.
didn't say you would have to.
You have to.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
possible.
It's possible.
Okay.
So that's why you definitely want to speak to the fire chief to make sure that the state fire marshal gives the fire chief ordinance over his village to keep people safe. So sometimes we meet that in other, we just met it in Matson for people with developmental disabilities. He overrode the fire marshal because he can, because he has jurisdiction over, compliance jurisdiction over his area for compliance. So you definitely want to speak to the fire chief to make sure that he's not imposing any additional sanctions or any other NFPA, the National Fire Prevention Act ordinances. So that would be my suggestion before you move further.
When you want to know the square footage that is required for a sprinkler system, anyone?
I believe it's 5,000 feet.
Then I'm not worried about that.
I'm not a fire marshal, though. I said I believe.
5,000 square feet, you know.
I understand,
Not
I
worried about
understand.
that then.
It might be different for residential, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it is definitely different for residential because most new homes now are required to have sprinkler systems. Doesn't matter what the square footage is.
Now, could you go through a scenario of, let's say, you smell smoke coming down,
Nope.
and you want to get out the window? How would you do that? Because I have a window well, and
Okay, that's a.
I'm
where
thinking
is
to
that-
myself,
is
how
that
in the
egress
heck
window? That's
am
the
I
question.
going to use this?
Is that egress window?
Egress.
Is that egress window you have?
You have a panel that comes out, you lift out so you can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
or
I mean,
pull
you open the
forward.
window up,
It's like a
screen,
door.
Go right up.
Well,
right in the yard.
that's also like 4 feet anyway. Yeah, it
That's
is.
not 4 feet. What I'm talking about mine is like right here. This how low it is. Step up, you're out the window. There's ladder right there. You probably have an older home, so I'm not sure.
Well,
That's 3 feet
2,000.
for a 7-year-old, right? I'm a short guy, so I gotta
I'm
kind
sorry.
of look at this. It's that tall, 7-year-old, and
No.
this high?
No,
Pick it up, out the
no.
window?
You're way too high up there. I'm talking about where my waist is or lower.
Yeah, well, that's 40 inches, 42 inches.
And the state fire
12,
marshal
24,
requires a
36.
ladder
It's
to
the
exit.
height.
And there is a ladder right there. Plus, I have an
No.
in-house fire alarm that if it go off in one room, it go off in the entire house.
Yeah, that's the.
Yeah.
And that's where it goes, to the entire home. Not just to
Well,
one
sure,
room,
the fire
the
marshal will
entire
test
home.
that when he sets it off.
Well, you can come on out.
You did.
I can test him too.
He tests it off.
Talking to a fireman yourself, so yeah, I'll test him too. So if he's right, I'll find out.
I assume you have,
Top of the window. It says pull in emergency, 2 chains.
Right.
Window pops out. You
that's,
still have to, like Mr. Lure said, you still have to hop up.
Ours is like a door.
Yeah,
Ours is like a
mine
half a
needs the way
door.
they
Yeah, the new ones come out towards you. That's the requirement now. They have to be able to swing forward. The ladder has to meet it, and then they have to be able to,
My house was one of the
physically
first ones
exit.
built there. 20 years ago.
Can you stand up for a second? Can you stand up for a second, please? Can you stand up? You'll be fine trying to get out that window.
I hope so. I put the basement in for that reason. You did a lot of work then, right? Because all the work you did is only 2 years old, right? You bought the home 2 years ago and you did all that work in the basement in 2 years. Pretty good.
looks really nice.
I assume your fire alarm system, you have smoke detectors in that basement?
Yeah, the whole entire home.
And fire extinguishers.
Pricing all up to date.
First aid kits. No.
And I also assume it's a connected
Everyone's-
alarm system?
It is.
Okay.
And everyone also is CPR certified, and everyone there is in compliance with knowing how to use a fire extinguisher. So we no problem with that. First aid CPR. Only thing I don't have is AED.
And hopefully you'd never need it.
Me too.
One in here,
See a lot of old ends. A lot of loose ends. I see a lot of loose ends. You know, we don't know, we have to check fire marshals. You know, you've already been operating there, so it's kind of like,
Well, I have a question. When people move to the village for the first time, do you all send out a list of ordinances? I didn't receive any about daycare.
that's the attorney, whether that's handed out.
No, ma'am, they're on the website, but we don't give, unless the people or individuals want to come in and ask for the ordinances, no, because it's probably, you know, an inch thick. But most of the times, if people have a question on it, we'd be more than glad to answer. Our deputy clerk, our clerk can answer those questions, but usually when people come in a residence, we don't give out the, I mean, it's open, but we don't hand it out.
This is just a quarter, what you said? This is 1/4 of the amount that's available that's out there. So multiply this by 4, and you see why it is on the internet, that you can look, otherwise you'd be thumbing through this much paperwork.
You know, my concern is safety, just like it is for everybody else in this room. But I must say, sir, pardon me if I'm wrong, it seems like you're trying to tear me down with the things that you're saying, and you just won't get up off of it. Okay, so I feel offended.
Ma'am, can I
really do.
can I say something to that effect,
You
ma'am?
most
And I'm
certainly
and I'm
can.
sure,
I feel
nobody's
offended.
trying to do that to you. Nobody's really not. What's going on right now is the village is growing. And there's a
Okay.
lot of things that we gotta put down. Everything, all the i's gotta be dotted, all the t's gotta be crossed. Everything's gotta be perfect. Because if it's not, for what follows afterwards, Larry will be involved. So nobody's picking on it. That's the truth, man. I feel sorry that you think that, but nobody's picking on it. It's just that, it's like, people go through it. You know, I'm dealing with some of the people in Larry will tell you. You know, you get dealing with the fire marshal, if you ain't perfect, no, that's the way that happens. But nobody's picking on you, for real, for real. And I feel sorry you feel that way.
I do too. My function here is as a representative of all the people in the village. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that don't know exactly what these words mean, or exactly what is going on, or exactly what is happening, or exactly what you are licensed to do. All right? So I am here to represent those people who aren't here tonight, for whatever reason, and to ask those questions and to get answers, so that when they choose to go back to the television or whatever, the video recording, that they can look back at the meeting and see if the questions they had were answered. That's all, man. I take it very seriously. And there's nobody here to tear you down. There's nobody here to build you up either, man. Let's understand that it goes two ways. Nobody tears you down, and nobody builds you up. We're just here to ask the questions. I'm here to ask the questions that any reasonable citizen of Monee would ask.
With that said, does anybody from the audience have any questions? Okay. Can you come up and speak into the microphone for us? Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
I am Mrs. Tillman, resident of 4993 West Margaret Street. I'm her neighbor. If she hadn't even stated that that's what they did, I would have never known. But I heard Mr. Trevino say that he's speaking on behalf of the citizens of Monee. Where was any questions given to you to ask on behalf of the citizens of Monee, saying that those are questions that we want to know, or issues we're concerned with?
I am expressing my concerns as a reasonable man. I'm a reasonable person. My expectation is that there are citizens with similar questions, especially neighbors.
But that's why I understand that.
You are one neighbor, is that correct?
I understand that. Well, my question is, because I know I didn't have the opportunity, nobody asked me any questions about, to give to you to raise here on tonight. So when you stated that you are speaking on behalf of the citizens of Monee, I'm just asking, were any questions submitted to you prior to today regarding this?
No.
Did you, pardon me, ma'am, did you get notice of this
She
being,
informed me that it was gonna come, but I was at work
okay,
when the people came.
I understand, but this is your forum now to Ask those questions.
Oh, I know, that's what I'm saying. I asked the question because I don't have a
That's the only
problem.
question you had?
I don't have a problem with the services that they're doing.
Okay, and this is why the neighbors have to be contacted, have to sign off.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd have an issue, not only with us, but obviously with the neighbors.
I do not have a problem with it.
That's good.
They didn't even, it's like,
What's going on with?
So my point is, if you have questions, please ask them.
I mean, I don't have, that's what I'm saying. I don't have a problem posing my question.
Okay.
But Mr. Trevino stated that he was speaking on behalf of the citizens of Monee.
In
So
his
I'm
position as planning and zoning,
Right, that's why I was asking, so he can clarify.
can you imagine how many questions there'd be with all the things we have to consider throughout the village?
Well, if you had that
Yeah.
2-pound thing deal over there that you all just showed.
Yeah, that's
I think
right.
it's equally important.
So that's why you are more than welcome to be here, ask the questions. Hopefully, we can give you the answers you need.
Right.
Right, we definitely want your feedback as well, so. Mhm. All right, anybody else from the public have any questions or comments?
Fire marshals, what?
no, I'll find out.
Okay.
Once again, you requested what from the fire marshal from the state?
Hard night.
Mr. Trevino, you requested something from the state fire marshal. What were you requesting again?
I don't request anything, that is something.
Well, you,
that-
somebody else just said something
Somebody
about
else
fire
said-
marshal.
I think it was Ms.
I
West.
don't need
I
that.
suggested that you bring it to the fire chief, that you have your occupancy from the fire marshal, and then that way they can speak together.
Okay.
They can talk and clarify if there's any additional requirements at this time. If not, you've already paid for your special use permit, and then under our other trustee board, they'll look into that as well as our attorney. But what you want to really consider is what the fire chief is going to see if you've not met with him and he's not seen the property. A lot of people always think the fire marshal overrides the village, but that's not true. He gives you the state under DCFS regulations, but the regulation says that if the village is more stringent, then you must comply to the village ordinance. So my suggestion was that, have a physical fire marshal occupancy, which would be his NFPA letter for you, and then present it to our fire chief, and he'll let you know if there's any other additional requirements or not.
Okay.
Sound like a game plan. Anybody else?
Thank you, folks.
Public comment.
Sure.
I like to let you guys
Just, could you just make sure you speak into one of the microphones for us, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Anthony, this is my sister, this is my brother-in-law. I've been a police officer for years. I'm retired. I know a lot of you, well, I know one good officer on your department, probably are all good. But I worked with one of your sergeants for years, I trained him. And here's another thing, when you have ordinances, Will County supervisors goes over the village. When Will County says you gotta do this, you gotta have a fence by a fence or a yard or whatever, that's what you gotta do. When you dig a pool, I know because I'm on the creek board,
Sir,
okay?
with all due respect, Will County ordinances pertain to unincorporated portions of Will County. We're incorporated.
I know you incorporated.
Yes.
But you still have Will County rules and regulations.
If it's unincorporated, sir.
I know I'm unincorporated, okay? I know that.
No, you're incorporated. You're incorporated
I
within
know
the
you're
village of Monee.
incorporated here.
No, he's
Yes,
saying
sir.
you're
I'm
you're
unincorporated.
unincorporated?
If you're unincorporated, that's where Will County ordinances prevail. But Monee's incorporated. So our rules, we don't have to go to Will County every time to ask for permission.
But you do still have to go to Will County sometimes. Now, am I right or am I wrong?
I think you're wrong.
You think I'm wrong?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
well, I'm on the board too in Crete.
I understand.
Okay, and this is my sister.
Sir, we're not trying to be-
Let me just say this.
Yes, sir.
Neighbors all around don't complain about her.
We're not being argumentative, and we
But
know.
you guys seem like you're slamming her.
No,
And you know, to me, as a police officer, I was a lieutenant.
Yes, sir.
I trained a lot of officers.
Yes, sir.
I worked for University Park, Richton Park, Illinois State, Robbins, Illinois, which is a Dodge city. I worked out there a long time.
I understand.
But
We're not
run
being,
into all kind of problems.
if I may, we're not being argumentative. And
Well, you
special
seem to
use,
be though.
sir,
That's my opinion. I'm sitting back.
that's
in the
your
audience.
opinion, I respect it. But special use permits too, the board has the right to go from 30 to 60
I
to
didn't
90.
say you didn't have a right to it.
Okay,
Did I say that?
Come on, let's go sit down.
you're implying it, sir.
I'm not implying, just like you guys are implying.
We done here? Anyone else got something?
I don't
Did
think
you all
we
have
more
any questions?
Yeah, did you have any cross?
Do you have?
Yeah, how can we move forward positively? How can we, what are the next steps? I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you, sorry.
Dee?
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
My name
you're-
is Demetra McIntyre, and this is my sister. Not by blood, okay. But I wanted to know, and I help her a lot, and we're like, we bounce off each other. So moving forward, I'm like her second set of ears here this evening. I just wanted to know, get clarified, how can we move forward in order to get what we need to provide to you guys? I do know about the letter that is needed. We will get that. That should be not a problem at all, getting that from the state or our rep pulling that over to us. The reason for us being here this evening was to get that permit. Are we getting that issued to us, the special use permit? If not, when and how and what needs to be done for that to happen? What's the action plan moving?
Can we issue them a permit just on,
Ma'am, what I would recommend is that, again, we have 30, 60, 90 days to make a decision.
Oh, okay.
What I would recommend is that the board continue this to November 15th. We're not saying no, okay?
Yes, okay.
And during that time, I will contact Chief Nealon on your behalf
Okay.
and indicate, he probably knows you, we're trying to work with you, and indicate what do these individuals need in order to get permission from him. You know, not
And
permission,
so,
but,
do we need to provide you guys proof of the difference between a center and a home daycare? Because it seems that you all, or we all are not in agreements that we are operating a daycare, not a center. I know there was issues, and I do know that, I know we're looking for the village to give us the approval, but we do have the approval from the state.
yes, ma'am.
And we understand that as well. So the state does not, the village would supersede the state. Is that correct? Right.
If I may too, ma'am, I agree with you, but again, we're trying to help. We're not trying to hurt. Because even if the board tentatively said yes tonight, the board doesn't make the final call. They make a recommendation. I can almost guarantee, I've been here almost 25 years, the board, Mayor Boggs and the trustees will have the same questions. And they respect this Board of Trustees, Board of Appeals a lot. So we're trying to help and expedite the matter. So what I would recommend again to the board is to continue it, which is not unheard of. Sometimes they go 6 months to a year. We don't operate like that. We try to move them in and move them out. And during that time, the next 30 days, we can contact Fire Chief Nealon, okay? We can contact the state. We'll help you. Again, we're not trying to slow you down, and we understand, okay? But, you know, we can't make I don't think the board can make a recommendation tonight to the board with open-ended issues. That's all we're trying to say.
I understand that, and I'm clear on what you said about 60, 90 days. But you have not answered my question regarding what is it you would need for us to do? We know about the letter. Do we need to give the clarification? I know you said we'll make the phone call, then you just referenced and said we will help you. So we will make the calls as well to make sure we're
Okay.
pushing along, because I know you guys are busy. This is not the only issue you have on the table with everything going on in just today's world. So we would get the letters to you that you all need. I don't know, to a direct person. Are you going to give us a direct contact person so we can move forward with the process to help? If something's needed, you're not getting what you need, if we have to step in, we need that point of contact so we know how there's an action plan. Meanwhile, we still have to operate. This is the livelihood, and not just a family, but you have families of, 4 kids, who parents have to go to work every day in school or whatever they need to do. So we need to be able to still be moving forward. That's why we want to be clear when we leave here, what are the expectations from us as well as what we expect from you guys.
from what it sounds like from the board, the fire issue is probably the most important thing. That's, you know, the access, the ingress, and I don't know if you dealt with Chief Nealon, but it's very professional, very thorough. And if we get a blessing from him, that's good for the board, I
So we
believe.
can make the call
Okay.
and try to make, we could do that on tomorrow. Start making those calls to get an appointment for him to come out. I'm sure he's probably a little aware of the situation you guys have been talking to him.
Mhm.
Was that Mr. Lemira?
Yes.
Yes. And so we can just say that, you know, we're calling
Yes,
to schedule that appointment, trying to get the special use permit.
and I'll give him a heads-up call, saying, expect your call, we're trying to work with you, explain the situation, the board had some concerns.
And we will have that letter from the state to provide to him.
I think
as well.
that's
Yes.
important, because
At the appointment.
Yep, because that also helps you in the future, because again, we indicate in every permit or variance or,
Oh, yeah, subject to approval, that's. Yeah,
Absolutely.
understand. Yeah,
Okay.
You said that, yes, okay. All right, thanks. Lou.
If I could say something, I wasn't trying to be mean tonight. I've been working on this for like 3 days, and I kept coming back to this. There's nothing here. And I'm thinking, well, they don't even have water down there.
No, so we,
What was I supposed to do?
so we were hoping to have a little, we didn't know how the presentation was gonna look. I told Linda, get some
I need this,
pictures.
can I show this
Yeah,
video?
so we have kitchen, bathroom, it's fully.
Well, that makes a difference.
When you come back next month, have those pictures.
Yes, we wanted to have it on video. Yes, we will. We will.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will. We'll just have it next month.
okay.
No, we worry about it right now.
Yeah. Right. All right. All right, so at this time, I need a motion to close the public hearing
Are we going to table this
after.
after? Okay.
I motion.
Just go.
I'll make that
Second.
motion.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Litterer,
November 15th?
Litterer,
Yes.
Lidstrom,
Yes.
Trevino,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Bettenhausen,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Colt.
Yes.
Okay, so now I need a motion to table this till our next meeting on November 15th.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All right, roll call, please.
Lindstrom,
Yes.
Trevino,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Bettenhausen,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Colt,
Yes.
Litterer.
Yes.
Okay, so what we'll do then is our next meeting will be on November 15th, and we can re-go over this then, and bring the additional pictures that you have, and then bring the information that you get from the fire chief, just to,
It was a video.
In a video. If
yeah, if you have the
it's-
video, we can play it.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay,
All right, ladies
right.
and gentlemen, thank you.
all right,
Thank
thank you
you,
for your
folks.
time. You have a wonderful
again.
evening. Yes, thank you.
You want me to bring the neighbors too, or just?
Boy, come on, let's go.
I think just a note from the fire chief is gonna be
Yeah.
good. I think you're gonna be good with that.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening. All right, so next we have some new business. The first item is discussing moving our start time to 6 PM. Anybody have any feedback on that?
Do it.
I prefer 6.
Yeah, whatever. Okay.
Is that please?
Did you wanted it 6? I think for the winter months especially. I say 6.
All right, can I need a motion? I need a motion for this?
It should be, only. 'cause-
Okay,
It's Friday in the Philippines.
so can I have a motion to approve changing our meeting time to 6 PM?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Second, everybody.
All right, roll call, please.
Trevino,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Bettenhausen,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Colt,
Yes.
Litterer,
Yes.
Lindstrom.
Yes.
All right, so Does that mean our next meeting then, starting November 15th, will start at 6 PM?
Okay.
I
Madam
didn't
Chairman?
say a start time before because I wasn't sure.
Excuse. Okay.
Okay, second item under new business is a presentation on proposed amendments to the current village code regarding quite a few items here. So let me turn these on. Thank you. Maybe. That one's on. All right, there we go. Oh wait, I should turn that one on too. That one must have shut off. All right, whenever you're ready.
All right, well, thank you. My name is Maura Ragoni. I am a certified planner with Robinson Engineering. I've been here probably, I think it was almost about a year ago or so, and we talked about some items. I've been working with staff over the last couple months or so to revisit those and to bring them forward in these revisions and amendments to your zoning code with the anticipation that next month we would actually hold the public hearing, which then make them approved changes to that. So I'll go ahead and identify in your packet today, there is a cover memo which identifies the revisions that we're proposing, also the revised amendments through there. Anything that is in a red text, is that a revision? At your DS today, I did include one item that was not included in the original item. I will go ahead, that is a technical revision that was from the engineers. So I'll kind of brief over what a text amendment was, because it's something that a lot of municipalities don't do often, but it is very important. And what we do is we update the code throughout the times. One, it is to address any new trends that are happening, new uses that are happening. Also, if there's anything in the code that, you know, the village employees, whether it's a building commissioner or so forth, are seeing a repeat that we need to address. This is a way to do this. If it's something even with code violations that we see this, how do we approve it? How do we change it? Is there quick language that can be happening, and so forth? So in your zoning ordinance, it does state that you do have the ability to amendment. That is section 11.2-8. That can be initiated by anyone. In this case, it is the village is initiating this text amendment. Again, this is something that communities do periodically. Sometimes they do a gigantic overhaul, but with this, we wanted to kind of tie to those hot topics that we wanted to address. So the process is that we'll have the PZBA discussion. Then there'll be a public hearing that will come before you. And again, like anything, just the same process that it is for the special use or variance, you're a recommending body to your village board. When you do that, they will have for the next time the standards that we must look at in terms of, just like a special use when you do it or variation, does it meet it? Is the requirement? What is it that we have to look at to check those boxes to make sure that we're moving in the right direction? A lot of times too, text amendment, we look at your goals and your policies to make sure that we continue to move everything forward there. So what I'll do is I will take each individual one. I have slides. I won't read the actual text changes itself. Could be a little boring in late night reading, but I will go ahead and highlight the main points and be here for any questions that you may have. So the first one is that we had talked about some time, I believe I was before this board, regarding stockpiles. As we have in our M2 district, we have a lot of businesses that have not just outdoor storage, but outdoor storage that requires large stockpiles. So this was an opportunity to address these businesses that are coming in and how to address them. Right now, I just want to let you know that any revision that is here is intended for future. What is out there would be considered non-conforming at that time. So with that, what we did is we looked at a couple of regulations. We looked at height, and last time we were here, we were trying to determine what the height should be. And a lot of it went back to not every property is the same. So you might have a property that slopes, you might have a property that's flat, you might have a property that's way far back. So what we did is we looked at the height and we established it that which is visible. And we said that 10 feet. We thought that it doesn't mean that the stockpile can only be 10 feet, but that the stockpile itself could be taller as long as 10 feet is not visible from the road. So we have other mechanisms that are in there that will assist it. One, the location. We want to make sure that we weren't having it right on a property line, but rather a distance if it was residential or another comparable property. By that too, we have a minimum size. So we said 5 acres. You can't have a stockpile on a 20,000 square foot lot. It just doesn't make sense. But then the other factors that help with that height is we looked at fencing, require fencing, berming. So if you have a berm, if you have a 3-foot berm, and then you have a fence on top of it, that's only gonna help increase that screening requirement. So that would allow for the 10. But looking at it all properly, holistically, I guess to say, where are the elevations? Where does it sit? Does it have a great fall? So if it has a great fall and we can put it in one portion of the lot, it'll have its opportunity to have a little bit more height, but also making sure we restrict that visible impact that it may have. The others that we looked at was stormwater pollution plan. This is where we want to make sure the engineers come into play, just to ensure that we don't have any runoff that are going into our streams and our stormwater. Other items that were included on here are hours of operation. These are kind of preparing an operation plan so you understand. A lot of these will come through and have different types of machinery with them that may be loud and may be a nuisance at certain times. So look for an operation plan, hours of operation, how many trucks you see come in and out, ways that they're going to control odor, dust, etc. And then even an emergency prevention plan. We've seen that different types of materials can produce some hazards, so wanting to make sure that that is understood and part of the special use process in this. So that is the stockpile discussion. Next I'll move on to fences. And in your packet, right now we looked at a couple different areas with your staff to identify what we were looking for changes. One of the most impactful ones, and I will show, we do have some photos here, so kind of explaining why we're changing these and what we're trying to achieve. One of them is that the ensure the location of the fence does not impede the flow of water. As you can see by that photo that was provided by your staff, that's exactly. What happens is that we have these that almost create a dam, and it prohibits and it backs up the water. So this would be an opportunity that when a fence permit comes in to look to see where are the drainage easements, where is the water coming from, what can be done. Whether, it's by providing a fence that is like on the top photo where it's more of like a split rail fence where the water can go through, or maybe it's just a modification of raising that fence in some way. But this will ensure that you would not have that middle picture where you have that backup, which becomes very unsightly, standing water, and actually it impacts the stormwater design of the entire subdivision. The next is back-to-back fencing, and back-to-back fencing is where you have, as it is, one fence right up to the next fence. And a lot of residents don't want the same fence as their neighbor, or they want a different color fence. But what ends up happening is you have this almost a no man's land in between. And it creates areas for unsightliness. You have growth in between, as you can see in the photo on the top left. You have growth areas there, as well as then you have kind of this intertwine on the one on the top right. So to address it, I'll give an example here. I just took some areas where we have a fence requirement, as stated, to look to eliminate back-to-back fencing abilities, is to look at the text stating that it's on page, because it's very specific. We did a lot of this, where it talks and I want to address this specifically. It's on page 4 that it says double fencing is only one fence may be erected to separate 2 lots. And we talked a lot about staff with this, and this was kind of the direction that they wanted to go with it. The way that it could be interpreted is at the top right, as you see, there's fences that aren't completely enclosing the lot, and that would be you're separating 2 lots. Now, some occasions we have larger lots, or we have individuals who don't want to enclose the entire lot, but they'll need it for a pool, right? Because you need a fence to have a pool and so forth. So the picture on the left shows where I kind of highlighted in black, where it just shows that they've enclosed the fence. So that wouldn't be considered a back-to-back fencing because they're not separating the 2 lots, but rather they're just enclosing the pool area. So there's kind of that opportunity where you do still have that safety requirement of a pool, but yet then you want to try to avoid those back-to-back fencing situations. Then the other items in here is that allowing for all fences must have that finished side out to ensure that. And one of the early on discussions was with staff was to prohibit chain link fencing in residential, which they seem to be kind of moving more towards that faux wrought iron and so forth. Also, some of them just help with maintenance and whatnot. So that's the fencing discussion. The next is driveway width and driveway location. What I can do is, I think what will be easiest is to go and kind of share some of these pictures that we have here to kind of identify. There's two items that we're addressing here: the driveway width as well as the driveway setback. In the driveway width, I'll take that first. We're looking at about 28 feet at the property line. So that will help to ensure that an entire front yard does not get paved. One, it helps with green space, it helps with stormwater. It also just helps with that neighborhood type feel with the greenery there. That's why we have setbacks. So by restricting it to 28 feet at the property line, it also gives them the opportunity to increase it as they get closer. Because say they have a 3-car garage, or for example, the one on the left of the picture where they wanted to have additional space there. But what ends up happening, like the one on the left, it's almost the entire front yard. So right in the portion, you'd be able to have it at the 20 feet and then bump out to be able to take in that portion. Here we go, I can use my pointer to use that portion. So in reality, the driveway would kind of swoop a little bit, so you don't have that massiveness. Then also looking at circular drives to make sure that dividing it out, if you have a circle drive, 14 and 14. So you still don't have that green space still is preserved in the front without having a large expanse of a driveway. The other item that's adding is item B, and that's looking at the setback of a driveway. Right now, the ordinance is silent. Most properties that we see, that they do have some type of strip in between. A lot is easy with in terms of maintenance, snow plowing, and whatnot. But then we do have some cases where they are paving right to the property line. And that can impact one, like the property pictured on the right was one that was identified by staff, is that they literally, it's one gigantic driveway right down the property line. There's a couple things that this addresses. One is, again, adding that greenery. We set our buildings back for the green space. One, it assists in making sure that we have that ability for snow removal and so forth, because if your tendency is to clear your driveway. Well, if you don't have the green space, then where are you putting it except on your neighbors? So that assists with that, but it also assists with stormwater, because a lot of those areas, those green areas, are designed for drainage. And so by preserving those, that ensures that we continue to keep back to that peated flow of water to keep that going as well. So what we added is that that we did look at also if there should be a side load garage, because sometimes to make that swing, that 5 feet is a little difficult. So allow him to go one more foot into that to be able to get that turn. Turning into a side load garage is not my forte, so if I can get any extra foot, I think that's a reasonable. And again, that would still be that 4 feet only for side loaded, so you can have that approach. And again, any platted easement, if it's a public utility or drainage easement, that you can't put it in there. The engineers kind of shy away from that. The next is RV parking. And I don't know if we talked about this the last time that I was here. This was an item in your packet. Your staff had prepared first draft at this back in March of 2022. So they had prepared this addressing anything recreational vehicle. Those that are campers, motorhomes, mini motorhomes, trailers, boats, everything that's fun is a recreational vehicle, but then determining what a commercial recreational vehicle. In there, I included the original revisions that staff had prepared, and stating that there was no more than one recreational vehicle or similar vehicles parked on a driveway in the R1 and R2. They paused and said, well, we have this ER, which is a larger lot, so then they would allow them to have on acres, 1 acre or more, that they could have one, but also if they had some type of corral that they could go ahead and provide an additional one. So as we went through this, I had taken some other items that in terms of RVs, and we chatted about just to make sure that we were thinking holistically, because we do know that you may have an RV and you may have a guest that has an RV who comes to visit you. So how do we address that? We wanted to address items for those that have family members that come, how do we get them, because there's a certain amount of timeline, how do we allow that to happen by requiring a permit, so if you had more than two. That the owner is involved in, say they brought in another equipment there, if they're, they had an RV and they're fixing the jet skis, that they're working and maintaining it, that would make sure, or you're preparing it to go on trips and so forth, so addressing it that way. It does also identify other requirements, and it has to be in good working condition, right? We want to make sure that they're operable and so forth, so that's kind of identifying an H on that. Also, to use, how it to be used, it's to be used as the recreational vehicle. It's not additional storage, it's not additional housing, other than, if you have a guest coming here as well. Then also that they cannot park on the street, to make sure that it's understood. Those will impact your roads and so forth, but that if there is something, a need to be parked on the street, that there is an opportunity to coordinate with the village as well to address that. So we wanted to add these as considerations, these items, because we want to ensure that we weren't just saying only one, but wanted to think holistically in case if there was potentially the need for someone to have an additional one here or there.
Can I butt in?
Yep.
With regard to more than one RV, proof of ownership. Where there are two, and one's been there for several years, not knowing who the actual owner is that they're in a capacity to provide storage on this property? For somebody to store their RV, probably pay the owner of the home? I don't think that that's allowed.
I'm sorry, so I want to make sure that I'm answering or following the question that's being asked. In terms of you're asking whether somebody can rent out their driveway to somebody? Is that what we're asking?
Pretty much,
Okay.
whether it's in the driveway or if it's parked behind the house.
Yep. Yeah, I have, there are ways to make sure that is, and many of the times, and I apologize if I didn't have it off the top of my head, sometimes we've gone back and forth on them. Sometimes we put in here that it has to be,
I think it did say in here it
Did
needed
it?
to be owned by
Yep.
them. I'm pretty sure I read that.
Yes, I believe it says that there's something that states that it has to be owned. The recreation should be owned by a household member residing on the property.
Right, and they have to show proof of that ownership.
Well, yes, that would be part of any code enforcement issue that comes up, just like anything, that they would have to show proof of it, and so forth, yes.
But they wouldn't be allowed to have two anyways, right?
Right,
I
but
mean,
he's correct, but I think if there's this concern that is being rented out, if you're renting out your driveway or your back or your area, correct, then that's how you would have to show proof of ownership.
How about something that has commercial lettering on it?
Well, they address commercial vehicles, and that portion was addressed by staff.
I'm talking about an RV with commercial lettering.
If I may help more with this, I'm Lance Beck from the Building Services Supervisor. Sorry, Roman couldn't be here, he's not available.
Thank you.
In our initial thing, a commercial vehicle is anything that would display a business applique or business lettering or whatever that is not allowed to park on the streets in the town or park on driveways. They would have to be somewhere else.
Except in a certain cul-de-sac.
I went, I'm the one that drafted it, because I was asked to. I went around the whole town and took pictures of every RV. I have, what, about a 25, 30 page
Yep,
photos.
I just picked 3.
So that being said, I could give you a few places. There's one on the county line, County Fair Lane that has 4, I believe, and sometimes they're parked on the street. There's one on, let's see if I remember my streets now, Cherry Lane, that when he prepares his camper to go on it, he parks it on the street to prepare it. There are some, now this one we just had an input on, the expandable side campers. Because they have batteries in them to expand the sides, the batteries need to be tended. which means they need to be plugged in. We did have it said to us that having the sides out because they are not perfectly watertight is a way to keep them aired out to make sure they're dry and everything, but then how do we make sure they're not being occupied? So do we look at, you get it for the 48 hours to service it, but otherwise it has to be backed down, the sides have to be collapsed in so that we can say that nobody's staying in it. There's one house on Geranium that has a boat and a camper. He has a driveway, he goes by all rules, it's all up on his thing, but they're out in front. So that's the question, is when do we say it's enough? Because there's some people that are using the right-of-ways, the side lot, everything. There's one in a cul-de-sac in Gorman Fair, or Gorman Farms. There's actually two, but we can't see anything on one lot. There's another one in Gorman Farms that he has a corral. He has at least a couple that we know of, they're in a corral, but you can't hardly tell they're there. There's some on Mulberry. There's one on Mulberry that when he parks it, the tongue is always over the sidewalk. There's one on Cardinal Court that at times they park their car transport. So on the back of a pickup truck, the car transport trailer they use sometimes where they go for 3 cars, he parks it on his driveway and it's hanging over the sidewalk, which should be an immediate ticket by the police because the sidewalk is supposed to be for pedestrians and pedestrians with handicaps to get around, and if it's blocked, they can't do that. So it's just trying to tighten up that people have taken advantage of certain things, and the ordinance that we have is very, very minor in a sense as it stands now. It's just people have these things out here, and it's have them, but please take care of them so you're not impeding on other people.
If there's no other additional questions on RVs, we will move to short-term rentals. This is an item, as I've said, that when we look at trends that happen, right? We've all had RVs, fences, and so forth, but short-term rentals are items that have becoming more popular, even in communities when you don't think that there's a need for short-term rentals, that they do. So staff had asked that we kind of take a look at it to see what is out there in terms of regulations, how to address it. We kind of talked about the gamut of how to address it. We can, you have some communities make it all too restrictive, some just have basic. So what we did is we took the meats of how we should regulate, but then also added in some other additional items for consideration that would help. What the main thing when we look at these short-term rentals is that they're in single-family development, single-family neighborhoods. And the one key, just like anything, whether it's a home occupation or whatever it may be, you want to preserve that single-family feel and that single-family look. That's what it is. So you want to make sure that what is happening is not negatively impacting on the outside. So what we've done is we've looked at the short-term rental growing trend in municipalities. We classify it as anything that is no longer than 30 days. Something longer than 30 days is it kind of goes into that true rental. But we also looked at even restricting the minimum amount because to ensure that it was just not a one-off, it became actually a rental for vacations or leisure purposes. So what we did is we looked at it making it a permitted use in the residential districts with regulations. First, what we did is we established short-term, we addressed a distance between short-term rentals. Then we also did parking regulations. So what I say the distance between short-term rentals is that no more than 500 feet between short-term rentals. So if you have a short-term rental, the next one can't be within another 500 feet. And that ensures that you don't have an entire one after another a block. The next is that in multifamily, townhome developments, looking at a percentage of that development, that was set at 25%, so the whole total units of 25. Others, just kind of highlighting some of them again, no more than 2 consecutive nights. The parking must be provided on the same lot as that, restricting, from street parking because you don't want to negatively impact the street. a short-term rental is subject to all fire and building codes. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. Anything would have to be, but this just kind of outlines it. And one is to make sure that there's no advertisement or signage that states that it is a short-term rental. That, again, is preserving that residential feel, kind of the same as you would on a home occupation. So, yes.
And you could probably hear me from there. So we're looking at establishing a distance between the rental property and short-term rental parking?
No, I'm sorry, I don't know what that came, but no, it's just looking at the short-term, the distance between the short-term, properties.
Rental, let's
Right.
say rental property.
Yeah.
Take out the parking there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it looks at short-term rental. So A talks about short-term rental, separation 500 feet from all property lines from another property line. So property line here, next property line, 500 feet from the next. And then when we talk about parking, all overnight parking at short terms must be provided on the same lot and must be located on pervious. No parking may be for persons, for street parking, just to make sure that you're not negatively impacting the street as well. So that's there's a new definition that comes along with it. The new definition just, excludes hotels, motels, lodging establishments to make that distinguishing factor that this would not apply to a standard hotel. Then the other item that we've included is that relating to lighting. Right now, your ordinance kind of generally has lighting regulations for, commercial development. We're looking at exterior lighting in the residential areas, putting in some mechanisms that would allow the staff to be able to ensure that we're not negatively impacting our residents through downlighting, making sure that there is, a certain vertical angle, as well as then giving the opportunity to shield those lights as well. Seems like now the big trend is that we all want to light up our home. We want to cast it, and it does negatively impact, or sometimes we have that spotlight in the back that doesn't seem so impactful, but light does travel. So this gives the opportunity to still make sure that we're providing the safe lighting on our property, but that it's not negatively. So then we also address, flags and so forth on how all of this would address, because those are obviously important that have to be. Then the next two items, the first one is actually in your packet, and the second one was that I had mentioned is left at the Diaz. And these items take more of kind of an engineering aspect of it, because these are in your code. Even though they don't have, the land use regulations, because they're in your zoning ordinance, we still have to bring them through this process. So the first requirements on construction standards B, those have been kind of been implemented in your by your engineer, and this has kind of been good practice. This is a way to make sure that it's codified in your code that these are the standards. So when any developer opens up, they know exactly what they're looking for in terms of the pavement thickness. And the other item was that relating to the grade of the parking lots for a particular slope. Again, that's just kind of good engineering practice that updates it to ensure that we're continuing with the standards that we have at this time. The next item is in relationship to parking is addressing the drive aisles. This again is that that little quarter turn where we can change the language a little bit. That helps it easy to implement and carry on exactly what the village is intending to do. This talks about the widths, as well as then for two-way traffic and drive aisles. These again are industry standards, just making them code. When you make them code, it makes it much easier for those who are reviewing to implement, because it is the code. And the last item, which is at your Diaz, is that of the stormwater runoff. The stormwater regulations are actually under your zoning ordinance. And again, just like the item that I had mentioned before, it takes more of that engineering aspect of it. But because it is in your code, we have to include it. Mm-hmm. So they had changed the State Water Survey Bulletin from Bulletin 70 to Bulletin 75. It is something that has been done and implemented through your development, but this again makes it very clear that whomever of a developer opens up the book, they know exactly where we're going, so they can start planning ahead of time, knowing that it's Bulletin 70, not Bulletin 75. So that is the end of the revisions that are proposed. I think some of them we talked about before and looked for additional feedback on. And then there's some new items that are here as well. So again, this is kind of a work session. Any comments, questions in that, we'll bring back. We're going to meet with staff again, kind of fine tune everything for hopefully a future public hearing. I think we were looking at, I think in November?
November
Yep.
15th,
Yeah, we are, I'll be back then. So in November with the final codes that would require formal approval by vote. So I'm here if you have any questions. I know it's a very exciting topic.
Needed.
You know, it is a lot of work, and it's your staff. You know, they're the ones that are in it, and they're living it, and they call me, and they tell me, how can we do this? I come back, and we sat down.
Pros, man.
I threw one at her today, so.
Yeah, he threw it out. And it's again, there, you can't just pick it off the shelf, because Monee is Monee, and it's different, and you have your needs, so you just can't pick off the shelf. So we have to make sure that we're fitting your community with your goals and your policies that you have.
I don't want to be the bad guy.
You can.
But was it discussed at all about maybe not storing campers year-round in driveways? I only ask because I'm neighbor to someone that's had one sitting in their driveway for like 5 or 6 years and maybe 7 or 8 years. And you can't like see down the street and it's just sitting there, hasn't been done anything with.
If I understand everything right, we are bringing proposals trying not to impact too negatively people that have been doing it for a while. It may impact some.
Okay.
But how do we move forward? And if you want to go more stringent, I'm sure that's your ability to recommend that.
I just think it looks unsightly. We actually have had friends call our neighborhood Yogi Bear Campground because we had so many in driveways at one point. So I think
I feel your pain.
I mean, it's one thing if like, they're coming and going because they're taking them camping every weekend, but to even store it over winter in their driveway, I just think it's unsightly.
I will give myself up. I have a car hauler because I have a classic car. I am on a larger residential area. It is back on my driveway. It
Right.
costs a lot of money to store trailers and stuff. So
I have 2 campers,
right.
so I know.
Right, in consideration of the people that,
Yeah.
we're talking to, the people that are
Right.
in our town and stuff, how much of an impact, how much,
Right.
how do we want our town to look and stuff like that, so that's.
Right.
Madam Chair, if I may, so when I meet with staff, I usually give two opposite ends.
Right.
There are communities that I work on, and absolutely not. It can be no longer than 48 hours, or it has to be on the side, in there, screened, so it's not on the driveway. So, you can go to that way, and I wouldn't call it an extreme, because, it does have that aesthetic look. It also is the life safety, if you can't see and so forth. But then it's kind of trying to find that middle ground of, if you haven't regulated it, how do you regulate it,
Right.
and kind of see where the cards fall. Because again, this is the one in a lot of communities, it's like the first ones that we get the most code enforcement calls on, because it's there and you can see it in the time. We joke, I think it's my husband's job to go around the neighborhood, but it's just part of it, and so I think we can, if that's where, we can entertain some more stricter regulations. That's why we added some of the other items that we had in there to kind of focus in on, to make sure that it wasn't somebody living there, that it was good operation, so it did not have that aesthetic impact.
And if I may add, from doing this now for a couple of years, and I was in law enforcement prior to this, we need some change, I believe, in some of our ordinances, so it gives us the ability, because we go to people and they say, well, it doesn't really say this, or it doesn't really say that.
Right.
Whereas if we define it pretty
Clearly, yeah.
I don't want to say tight, but that's the only way I can think of, that this, and this, well then, sorry, it gives us the right to say something about it, where we're not sitting there having conversations about, no, you're wrong, you're right, no,
Right,
and stuff
absolutely.
like that.
It's tough being a code enforcer,
Oh,
I
I'm
take
sure.
it,
You're the
right?
bad guy, right?
That is a thankless job. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's
big,
a tough
I think
one.
it's worse than when I was a policeman.
Yeah, I'm
it is.
sure.
It's kind of hard to look up at this guy and not be intimidated.
So Sometimes
mean,
it helps, sometimes it doesn't.
I appreciate it though, because I get why they're, are the,
It's like
The
going to
codes
people's
are-
homes and telling them, on our resales, why this has to be done, that has to be done. They think we're just picking on them.
Yeah.
No, it's for the safety of you and your neighbors, because say, we went into a house and caught a gas leak, and nobody else wanted us to even do nothing, we got the fire department, the ball rolled, we might have just saved that house and how many other houses in the neighborhood if that water heater would have ignited and blew up instead of just heating the water. So I do understand it from that one, but it's a hard pill, because you go into some areas and they don't have the money and they don't take care of their house. How do you get them? And then I know there's now Will County seniors that can help senior citizens try to get some help. I know that there's a couple church groups that have helped in the neighborhood. So it's just a question of trying to make it safe and pleasant and clean and hopefully a great place to live.
right, absolutely. All right. I don't have any more questions. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Then if there's no other questions, we'll just continue to work with staff to button everything up and make it in such a format that the attorney can then go ahead and make sure that it gets codified. So we'll be back here next month with a similar presentation, because we will have the public hearing. But if there's any other questions or that in the meantime, you can reach out to staff and we can go ahead and further make sure that we've answered all your questions.
Perfect.
Okay? All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's everything. I think I just need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please.
Trevino,
Yes.
West,
Yes.
Bettenhausen,
Yes.
Brophy,
Yes.
Cope already
Oh,
left.
yeah, she left.
Litterer,
Yes.
did I forget something?
Yes.
Okay, everyone's a yes?
Yes.
Did I remember you?
Yes.
Yes, 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 yes.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, everyone.